Hey horror fans, welcome back to Room 237, coming at you with not a Universal film, this was actually Paramount, but nonetheless a 30s absolute classic horror film and horror story. This is one everybody knows, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Everybody knows this story. This is another story like Frankenstein or Dracula or even like Hunchback of Notre Dame that just everybody knows this story, even if they never read it or they never seen it. Of course, it's based on the book by Robert Louis Stevenson, which I read when I was like 11 or 12. I checked it out of the school library, read it, and I loved it. And ever since, it's had over 120 film and stage adaptations, with many being adapted by both Robert Louis Stevenson's book and Thomas Russell Sullivan's 1887 stage production, which this one draws heavily upon. And I mean, what can I really say about the story that no one knows? Obviously, it's about a very mild-mannered scientist, Dr. Henry or Harry Jekyll, which in this film, and I think this is the only film where it's pronounced Jee-kle. They pronounce him Jee-kle. He creates this potion that separates the impulses of good and evil that he believes every man has within him, and it spawns the alter ego of Mr. Hyde, where all his evil inhibitions come out. And this is the first time I have seen this film. I've known about it for a long time because, similar to M and The Lodger, which I reviewed those, this America's Serial Killers documentary, I don't remember which episode it was. I think it was the one about H.H. Holmes, but I could be wrong. Made analogies to this story and this film in particular. So I saw some clips in this. I've had this for about 10 years at this point. So, with that being said, I mean, that's the general gist of the story. I mean, the things leading up to it, he's badly in love with his fiancée, Miriam, which in the novel, I believe it's Agnes, or in the play, it's Agnes, but he wants to get married right away, but her father wants them to wait. And also, one night, there's this bar singer lady who's attacked. He helps her, nurses her back to health. She tries to seduce him. He's tempted, but his conscience tells him no. And it's with all those emotions that, you know, he tells his colleague, Dr. Landian, he doesn't just want to do good. He wants his mind to be free of all things bad. Which is why he further creates the potion. Now, of course, Jekyll and Hyde is played both by Frederic March, who even won the Oscar at the 4th annual Oscars, which for a horror film, it's hard for a horror film to win an Oscar in anything. Hell, even like special effects rarely wins, but every once in a while, also Best Picture hardly ever happens, but it has. But yeah, Frederic March is one of the rare exceptions where he won an Oscar for this. And he is absolutely phenomenal in this. He's great as Jekyll. He's great as Hyde. He really loses himself when he plays Hyde. The movie is full of overacting but it's done in such a way that it doesn't feel cheesy. Like, it doesn't feel like a Shatner kind of overacting. Like, when he's Hyde, he has like these tics where he's always like, kind of like a dog or something. I guess probably also because of the makeup, it's supposed to have sort of like a simian or ape-like appearance. It's amazing that he could talk with these teeth in his mouth because they stick like way out. 1931 is also called the pre-code era. So other movies like Frankenstein or Dracula, they're also pre-code. So anything sex, violence, anything like that that would be censored, this was sort of like a window where people could do whatever they wanted. So when this was re-released in 1936, about 8 minutes worth of the bar singer, Ivy, who is original to the film, played by Miriam Hopkins, had to be censored. Because when we first see her, you know, there's a lot of shots of her legs, you know, taking her garters off, long scenes of her, once the stockings are taken off her leg, is like hanging off the bed, like kicking. Very long scenes of that. All had to be cut. It was too sexual. When Ivy finally is murdered by Hyde, a lot of people seem to be under the impression that she's also raped. I don't think that's the case. Maybe upon their first encounter, because eventually she does go to Jekyll and show like whip marks on her back, but I didn't see anything that really implied rape. He really just barged in and strangled her. Still horrific. And eventually it gets to the point where he can't control the transformations. They just happen spontaneously. And the transformation scenes, God, it's getting worse. The transformation scenes like this was 50 years before American Werewolf in London, but this would probably be the equivalent, because like the first time he transforms, a lot of times the transformation has a lot of dissolve cuts. It's like this gradual kind of crossfade, similar to what you would see 10 years later in The Wolfman. But the first time is just like, you just see it happen. It's amazing. And what they did was they used a certain kind of makeup color and then certain kinds of lights. So when the certain colors would hit each other, it would make it appear. But on black and white, you can't see that. So it's literally just like the color of the makeup is just happening. It is pretty fascinating that they were able to do that back in 31. God, I know I sound terrible. Give me a moment. Apologize for that. But yeah, this is an awesome movie. And apart from the makeup, I mean, there's some camera work that is, like, I would consider this like the Sam Raimi. This was directed by Ruben Mamoulian. No, yeah. Ruben Mamoulian. Mamoulin. I can't even pronounce it right because my nose is so fucked up. A lot of ambitious Sam Raimi style camera work. I mean, the whole first chunk of the film is all POV. So like the corners are like all black to get like a round. And it's all like POV, so everything Henry looks at or Harry looks at, especially when there's like a mirror, like when he looks in the mirror, it's always POV. Lots of superimposed shots. I'm guessing to be symbolic or a metaphorical. Or even like when he kills Ivy, he's like strangling her and he goes down out of frame. And the camera pans up to like this statue of this like people with wings but naked. It's supposed to be kind of erotic, but I guess like the juxtaposition of what's happening. So this movie was very, very ambitious with just the makeup, the performances, the camera work, and also Frederic March. He's very acrobatic in this, sort of like Lon Chaney Sr. in Hunchback of Notre Dame of 23. I mean, like jumping up on like railings and like flipping himself around, like to escape from people and mobs. He's flying all over the place. Just, I don't know what else I could say about, and just, even the term, like, Jekyll and Hyde has become part of our everyday speech. Like, talking about, like, hey, what's up with that guy? It's like, oh, dude, he is a Jekyll and Hyde. With people with sort of split behavior, split personalities. Not really personalities, but apparently this was the first film ever shown at the Venice Film Festival. Not super interesting, but you learn something. Wally Westmore was the guy that did the Hyde makeup, which I've never heard that name before, but I would put it up there with the Jack Pierce stuff of, you know, Frankenstein Monster and The Mummy. I do have the 1920 version of this with John Barrymore as the character. I haven't seen it in years. I forgot most of it. But there's also the MGM did a remake in 1941 with Spencer Tracy. That one I haven't seen. But this is one of those movies, kind of like Phantom of the Opera. You could just pick a decade and just find one. I was reading the back of this. It actually has. Oh no, that's the director saying that. This is kind of a cool collection because it comes with a Bugs Bunny Hyde and Hair short, which I didn't watch, but this has gone down as the best adaptation, the best version of this story. And just from what I've seen alone, I'll have to agree with that. This movie is great. It is one of those movies, sort of like Silence of the Lambs, I guess. Like, it doesn't feel like a horror movie. It feels like a really well-made film that has horror stuff in it. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if... I really don't know what I'm trying to say about that, but I highly recommend this. Like, even if you're just vaguely familiar with the story, check this movie out. And this is, I think, the best version. And yeah, there's a lot of overacting, but it just... even with Jekyll, there's a lot of... It feels like a very stagey kind of film, like which, since it's more so based on the Sullivan play, I guess that felt more natural to act it like a play. But even on first viewing, like just now, first time I ever saw it, I think this is a great movie. and definitely one of the best films of the 30s. I mean, 1931 must have been one hell of a year. I mean, you had this, you had Frankenstein, you had Dracula. Holy hell. But yeah, 1931's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Excellent, excellent movie. And Frederic March is awesome as both. I don't think you're going to get much better than this. Also read the book by Robert Louis Stevenson, because the book is actually really good too. But anyway, I know I sound like shit. Thank you for watching.